2. This is from the SAT number 10. This is from the May 2017 QAS test. And let's jump in. So 2 says a main theme of the passage is that. So here we're asking about a main theme. And as far as I can remember about these tests, main theme is not something that comes up a whole bunch when we're talking about these types of questions here. But basically a theme is sort of just like a general idea that's running through the passage. And for the SAT, it's probably going to be more particular than you might find when you're talking about theme, sort of like in a literature or a regular English class. So theme is probably going to be just an idea that has a couple pieces of evidence to support it. And just like the last question, if you watch the last video that I did for question 1 for the same passage, this question here is sort of like a big picture question, and because it's about a literature passage, it's going to be hard to sort of identify like the main point or main theme in terms of like a thesis and a structure, sort of in the way that you might be able to do for a historical passage that makes an argument, or for a scientific passage which sort of is analyzing an experiment and talking about a study and the significance of that study. So the only way that I can think of to really get this answer choice correct is to have a good, strong foundation in terms of the comprehension that you have for the passage, which means you got to know what's going on. You got to know what the story is. You got to know who the characters are. You got to know what the interaction is, and you're going to have that stored in your memory a little bit to help you analyze these answer choices. Because I don't really think there's any way to go back to the text and scan for what the main theme is. We're going to have to just go through the answer choices and rely on our memory to help us recognize ones that seem more likely or less likely. Then once we have a sense of which ones are maybe more likely, then we can go back and look for evidence based on that. So if you are having trouble with the passage, I suggest that you watch the video that I did about the passage outline. That'll give you a better sense of how I think about it, the way I break it down, although it's not too groundbreaking. So just go back, make sure you understand what's going on with the passage. Okay, so let's jump in. So for 2, we're going to go immediately to the answer choices. And A says that a main theme of the passage is that friends who get back in touch after many years often find that everything has changed. Everything has changed. So for this answer choice to be correct, we would have to have evidence in the passage that as the Swede and the narrator meet again, they find out that so much has changed. And we may be able to sort of postulate or make an assumption that this is what's happening in the passage because the Swede, he used to be this great athlete, and he's not presented as being this great athlete now. And the narrator is kind of presented as being maybe a little bit more shy, a nice, quiet, shy boy who was probably not popular just because he doesn't seem to, he's like fanboying over the Swede, but now he's this big famous author who the Swede recognizes. So maybe we get a little bit of this, that everything has changed, but it's too specific a claim with not enough evidence in the passage. For this to be right, there would have to be some reflection, maybe after the meeting, where they find like, wow, it was crazy, like, the Swede, he just looked so different, and I felt so different, and I realized that our past was very different. It used to be this dynamic in our relationship, now it's this dynamic, but we don't get any of that specific reflection, so we would have to just assume that this is in there. And for that reason, it's too specific with not enough evidence. We should get rid of A. B says that the main theme, or a main theme of the passage, is that encountering a memorable person from the past, so far so good, can make an adult feel like a child again. So when I first look at this, I don't remember anywhere an adult feeling like a child again. But what it makes me think of is an adult feeling like a child is someone who's feeling excited and someone who's feeling like, wow, this is so cool. And that basically does describe how the narrator reacts. Like I said, he's almost like fanboying over the Swede. He's like this big goober. He's just so excited to see him. And even after even after the Swede leaves, he's still sort of smiling and beaming and being excited that he had met the Swede. He feels singled out. So I'm going to keep this answer choice, and I would go back later just to basically see, does it say anywhere that it makes an adult feel like a child again? Does the narrator describe himself as feeling like a child again? C says that a main theme of the passage is that playing sports together is an experience that connects people for the rest of their lives. So this could be true if we had evidence that the Swede and the narrator, that they played sports together, and this is the foundation of their relationship and their camaraderie today. But only the Swede is described as playing baseball, and it's kind of hinted or suggested. I don't think it explicitly ever says that the narrator never played sports, but it sort of suggests and hints that he didn't, that he was sort of more of a spectator for the sports. So because it never says that they played sports together and that was the basis of their relationship, we can get rid of C. D says that the main theme of the passage is that older people tend to remember the past as being better than it really was. This might seem plausible. Maybe you have these two older people, the narrator and the Swede, and they're reflecting on the past and about how great it was, but in reality it wasn't so great. But we don't really get that dynamic too much in the passage. For this to be true, you would have to A, have both of them reminiscing about the past in really clear positive terms, which I don't really think that we see. They hint and they talk about the past, but in pretty neutral terms, not really talking about how great it was. The second thing is that you would have to sort of see, for us to know that the past, that they're remembering the past is better than it really was, we would have to have some sort of reveal in the passage that basically says, yeah, we remember the past like this, but in reality, here's what it was like. Whether that's from an omniscient narrator or the narrator has a realization or another character basically brings them back home. But because we don't have any of that dynamic, either A, them praising the past as being very positive, or B, having this reveal that their memory of the past is better than it actually was, for that reason we can get rid of D. So that's going to leave us with answer choice B, but before we choose it, we should probably go back to make sure that there is evidence in there that the past can make an adult feel like a child again. So we can scan, there's a lot of different places that we can look, but if we look down here, we should note that the narrator says, I did feel almost as wonderfully singled out as I had the one time before at the age of 10, when the Swede had got so personal as to recognize me by the playground nickname I'd acquired because of 2 grades I skipped in grade school, right? Skipped. So here's the narrator feeling just singled out because he's getting attention and recognition from the Swede, and it reminds him of the time when he was at age 10. So this is sort of bringing him back in time to when he was 10, right? And there's actually another text which is even stronger, which is this woman here being like, you should have seen your face. It was lit up. You might as well have told us he was Zeus. Then she says, I saw just what you looked like as a boy, which tells us that his enthusiasm and his excitement about meeting the Swede sort of brings him back to being like a child, to being like a boy. It's reminding him of this memory when he was 10. So for that reason, B is going to be a strong answer choice, and it is our correct answer choice for question number 2.